What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good day. So, got some cool stuff going on in this video. At least cool for me, and hopefully it's mildly entertaining for you. I am going to be getting rid of the wheel gap on the Miata because it's ugly, or at least most of it. I can't lower it as much as a lot of you may want, or even as much as I may want, because the suspension travel, because the coils that I got are a little bit on the softer side, and I really don't want to ruin these flares. But some of you may ask about this, so I'm gonna get this out of the way right away. Subscriber's car. I'm gonna be building a full 3-inch exhaust for this thing, and then fixing some turbo piping or modifying some turbo piping, but that'll be for the next video. So we will be filming that because this thing's pretty sweet. But yeah, this video is Coilovers, so let's check them out. If you guys watched my last video or the last couple of videos, you would know that I obviously just finished painting body on this thing. Got some front tires mounted, and now that I got the paint body taken care of, minus the polishing, it does need to be cut and polished yet, but that'll come maybe next weekend as I have time. So suspension is up next. Now the front is not that really not that bad. It's kind of decently-ish low for stock suspension, but the rear is pretty tall, especially for stock suspension. Now, I do, like I just said, have some coilovers. It needs bushings for sure. That'll come as I can afford it. It needs like camber arms and control arms, stuff like that. But not so much control arms because that comes with the bushings or whatever. But you know what I mean. It just needs some suspension work. It kind of dances around on the road as you're hitting bumps and whatnot, and can't really be having that. It's not safe. It's not very comfortable. So one thing at a time though. So the first thing that I have to do is put these coilovers on. But these are the coilovers. I picked these up local from a guy literally like 3 minutes away. These are pretty much brand new Yonaka Spec 2 ones, so these have the adjustable dampening on them. And I know a lot of you guys might be like, oh, Yonaka, Chinese, blah, blah, blah. Well, 1, it's not your car, so don't worry about it. 2, lick my butt. And 3, I run them on the Del Sol. Totally fine. Yeah, it's a little on the soft side, but that's my daily driver. These ones are adjustable dampening, so I will be stiffening them up. And if these are just too soft for my style of driving, so be it. I'll run them for a while until I can save up and get better ones, which I'll put better ones on eventually as I can afford it. But these things were dirt cheap. They're brand new. There's no stress cracks in the bushings. All he did was change out his top hats because these are for NA Miatas, and he had a later generation Miata, I believe. So I think he put these ones on to either go lower or to fit his car. I don't remember. So I do have to reset some of the preload on these things because he did accidentally mess with them. I know that's not a huge issue, but the height is going to be different. Mostly on these two. The fronts here he really didn't touch because he had case ports on it, and the case ports were already set or something. He just needed new rears, but he had to buy a full set, so he ran the rears a little bit longer than he did the fronts for these coilovers. So the rears were the ones that he had tampered with, and he adjusted the ride height incorrectly, and he moved these rings. Instead of loosening this up and then turning this as an assembly, he split these and turned this spring up. So these are slightly different. So this one I already marked that this one has to come down. It's only like a 1/4 inch, if that, 1/8 inch, so it's nothing crazy. But I'm gonna go ahead and use my spanners because I took these to work yesterday to inspect them, and I didn't have spanners there, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. Just bring this down a little bit, kind of reset the preload on here, and then I can start getting ready to take the car apart. So fortunately and unfortunately, I do have to leave here shortly to go do a detail job with my brother. So I will have to come back to this later today. Hopefully there's time today where I can finish it. I don't know how long Miata coils take. Longer than Honda Del Sol, or longer than Honda coils, I know that. But we'll see. I really want to get this done today, so that way this weekend I can just straight focus on the Civic and get that knocked out, get that sounding good, get that taken home to its owner. So what I've done is I've loosened these bottom collars. I'm going to just go and reset the preload or whatever on both of these. So I'm going to just spin these down just until the spring comes loose on its perch, and then I'll go up against it and do one full rotation around, and that should pretty much more or less reset it to where it's even. And I don't have to worry about this one being a 1/4 inch higher or so on. Well, I adjusted this one a little bit, and then this one's a little bit off, like 3/32 off from this one, and I tried spinning this one back up now because I brought it a little farther down than I wanted, and it is super duper duper hard to do it off the car. So I'll try and readjust these after they're on the car when I have actual things holding them in place. So I'm gonna get the car jacked up. I don't have much time to film, so I'll catch up with you guys once I'm starting to pull the suspension off that. So I'm back from that detail, got the wheels off just now. I'm gonna just jump right into this. And the fronts are going to be a little bit trickier on the Mazdas just because this big old control arm is in the way, so I have to disconnect the little dampener, whatever it's called, for the sway bar, or the end link, I'm sorry, and then move the shield here because I got the bolt here. It goes all the way through, and I basically have to just take it off and let this hang so that way I can pull the strut out of here. And it's very tall that you can't really compress it by stepping on the hub, which sucks. Whereas the rear is more simple. You just undo the top bolts, the 17 here, and then end link just to give you some play, and then you can just step on it and bring it right out. So on the fronts here, I gotta come in here and disconnect this sway bar end link. I already broke it loose. Definitely a pain in the butt because it's old. So I don't know how well I can do this one-handed, but we'll see. So get it disconnected off of that. Just pull the bolt. It's got a little washer to go with it. That's that. So I'm gonna grab my 12 mil really quick, or my 10 mil actually, and pull this cover off. Splash cover, and then I'll get the control arm bolts out, and then just a 17 mil down below like on the Hondas, and try and get this beast out. So this big honking bolt with the nut on the other end is, I think, either a 21 or a 13/16. I ended up using two 13/16 wrenches and had to use cheater bars to actually break it loose. So I'm sure this is the first time these bolts have come loose. So with that loose now, I had to drop the sway bar a little bit so that way I can try and tap this thing out. And I got the sway bar end link disconnected as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and, before this arm drops, loosen up the 17 mil that's actually holding the shock in place. So that way, once it drops, I can grab it. So let's see if I can do this without dropping the hub on my knees. Finish taking this big old boy of a bolt out. Hopefully that washer's not going to avoid it entirely. Okay, so there's the bolt. Get that washer off, set it there. There we go. That's what we're working with. This thing is huge. So now, I should be able to just, pull the arm, let it sag, and oh, gentle now, don't hit the skirt or the flare. Out comes the factory strut. So that was a lot easier than I anticipated. I mean, definitely more time consuming than I'd hoped, but it wasn't as bad as videos had made it out to be. So this ball joint could definitely be replaced, but we'll do that later when we do the other ball joints. So for now, I'm gonna go ahead and get this other side taken care of and move on to the rear. Let's go ahead and grab a front strut. These ones are labeled F for front, and they got the little cone shape on the bottom, so, and they're also a little bit taller than the rears. Got the fronts all buttoned up. I gotta finish tightening down the through bolt and then the 17 mil down here, but other than that, it's all in place. Definitely super low, I can already tell, so I'm gonna have to raise it. Obviously I'll have to put the tire on and go from there, but the rears are hopefully gonna be a little bit easier. Just gotta have my dad step on the hub here, and then I should be able to just pull it out since it's already unbolted. Just gotta undo the 17 at the bottom, and then it should be free. But I ended up being a little bit wrong. You don't have to have somebody step on it. I'm sure you can still do that, but it was actually a lot easier to just undo this little 14mm nut and bolt right here and just pull the bolt out, and then undo the end of the sway bar end link here, and then the whole thing just falls apart just like the front, and then you can slide the strut right up. So I think I mentioned it earlier, but on these rear struts, the guy left the NB top hats on here, and the one that I just put in went right in. So you can see the top hats are a little bit different, but there was no light showing through, like it wasn't sealing or anything like that, so I'm not really going to worry about it. Unless something becomes a problem later, then I'll keep the stocks and throw them in my shed and then put them back, but switch top hats later. So let's go ahead and get this last corner on really quick and then get to adjusting the height before we run out of daylight here. Finished up, got the car on the ground. The rear definitely needs to come down probably like 2 inches. The front is exactly where I want it to be if it will stay consistent, I guess, when it compresses. So I went around each corner, I adjusted the dampening. It's 28-way adjustable, so I turned them all the way up, then I turned them down 14 clicks. So they should realistically all be halfway, but we'll have to see. I'll have to have my dad kind of press down on here for me since he's heavier than I am and see if we got room. I've been rubbing right here, so I'm probably gonna have to shave that corner off. I don't know why, it's just annoying. It wasn't doing it on this side for some reason, so I don't know, maybe I got this one a little bit further away, but it's close call either way. But this is gonna be really difficult to do because my driveway is uneven. So I'm gonna try my best, maybe set it up on some bricks. I think this section here is pretty straight. Definitely this one right here is flat. So maybe I can squeeze it on this last square here and then work with it there. Got it moved up to the front. Rear definitely needs to come down. This side is a little bit lower than the other side, so this side I'm gonna raise up. Not too comfortable, and I do have to trim right here. You can't see the Sharpie, but there's a little bit there that I have to trim. And this side, the fender itself is kind of bent, so I have to bend the fender in a little bit to clear right here. But I like the height here. It's probably about 1.5 inches off the top of the tire. Gives me plenty of room for when somebody sits in there and suspension travel. Whereas this side definitely looks cool, but I don't really know how much it's gonna travel. So I'm gonna go ahead and just raise it, probably 1/2 inch. So I'm gonna lower this side probably a little bit more than that. I got some caliper gauges here, so I'll measure it. I measured it on the ground and from the top of the tire where the outside ear of the gauge was meeting the fender liner. This side was 2.7 inches, the other side was 3.0 exactly. So I'm gonna try and go down probably like 10 full rotations. I marked it on this side and I'll do 13 on the other. And this side, I'm trying to get this lock ring undone because the guy that put these on, or the guy that had these coils before that I bought them from, must have gone like full roid strength and put these on, so yeah. I'm gonna start with going in 10 full rotations and see where that puts us. All right, so this is after the first roll or attempt. Front's definitely better. Still gonna bring it up a couple more turns, try and compensate. It's almost dead center now from the other side, but I do want to compensate for my body weight a little bit. And then the rear still needs to come down. I did 11 full rotations, so I'm gonna go ahead and drop it down like, shoot, maybe another 10. And then the other side, definitely gonna have to do probably like 20 something. Got it finished up. So the rear end, I may end up going a little lower later, I'm not sure. I know the rear end, just in general, the body height of the car, the rear end looks a little bit higher, or sits a little bit higher. So the pinch rods are almost even across for the most part. This is more of a rough thing because, like I said, my driveway is just not flat. So my coworker Roy is really good with getting it level, so he helped me fix the integras last time. I didn't even have to adjust this side though. And this was the taller side. I adjusted that side, and then either this side settled or it's on higher ground somehow. Or maybe I'm just drunk, I don't know. But this side didn't have to be adjusted, and it's almost perfectly level with this side according to the caliper gauge. Whatever, it is what it is. But then the front here, this side is the one that I based that side off of, and I just had to massage with a hammer the fender here, because I think the caster is a little bit off on these, on the front end. So if it is, then that would be my issue there, or maybe it's because, I don't know, something else, but I think the caster's off, really. So I hammered in the fender a little bit here, and then that's that. And then on the fender here, on the flare, I had to trim it. Just a hair, just to maybe like a 1/4 inch back, so that way it would clear the tire. And I already drove it around the block and it doesn't rub, so I think we're all good. Alright, so it has been 2 days now. I've had a full day to actually drive on the coilovers, and I hope the audio is okay. The dash on this car is like 3 inches long, so I just had to take my mic off and set it next to the camera right here, since I don't have a suction mount because I'm really lazy about buying one. But anyway, yeah, so I've had a full day to drive on the coilovers. I took the car to work on Friday. Today is now Saturday, so so far I'm enjoying them. Car needs an alignment really bad. Now it's pulling pretty good to the right, which it needed an alignment before, so that just made it worse. But other than that, the coils though, they are really soft. They're 6K spring rate front, 4K in the rear. My speedo cable is about to start howling. I can hear it, and my tires are kicking up all sorts of gravel. So the spring rates are 6K front, 4K rear, so it's a pretty soft setup. But these ones are the Spec 2s, like I said, so they have the adjustable damping, which is nice, and it does work, but it's just the rear end especially is soft. So I already, there it is. Alright, well, if anybody wants to PayPal me 50 bucks to buy a new Speedo cable, hit me up. So, alright, seems to have quieted it down for a sec. So, anyway, back to what I was saying. The coils are soft. That's a good thing, it's a bad thing, because the style of driving that I'm setting this car up for is going to be canyon track driving and learning how to drift. Shut up! Gosh! So, obviously that means I'm gonna need some stiffer suspension. Now I turned the dampening all the way up on all 4 corners on this. So I turned the dampening up, maxed it out on all 4 corners, and that definitely helped it because the front end is still rubbing. My alignment on the driver front tire, the caster is too far positive, so the front tire is a little too far forward in the wheel well. So there's one spot when I turn my wheel as I'm going around a right-hand turn or with enough body roll or with a dip or something that it'll rub like where the bumper meets the fender. And I tried bending it down a little bit, but you know I can only do so much with that without having to like cut that section off, which I don't want to do because it has a hardware there. So yeah, the alignment should fix that. But the spring rate, the coils really feel great because even right now where it's on the stiffest setting, it's really, my Speedo cable is being so obnoxious right now, but it's really pissing me off. I really need to change it. But anyway, yeah, so dampening is adjusted, maxed out in all 4 corners, and it's really not that bad. Like, it's still comfortable enough going over bumps and stuff and the road that it doesn't really feel like it's rattling your spine out. I mean, granted, I'm still on the factory rubber blown out bushings, so in my Integra, this might be a different story where I have poly bushings and it's a bit more firm, but it really, I have no complaints about these coils. I mean, they ride soft, yeah, they're comfortable, and but they don't really have much body roll. They have a little bit, granted, that's why I'm making this, letting you guys know, but not as bad as you would expect, and especially for being a lower end coilover, I guess, in terms of price, because these Spec 2s go for about 500 bucks, and yeah, I mean, if I paid full price for these, I would have probably saved the extra 150 bucks and went with Function Informs because I love Function Informs products. But I bought these, like I said, cheap, secondhand. These are basically brand new, and so far I'm actually quite enjoying them. Again, I do have these, the Spec 1s on my daily driver, my Del Sol, and it's nice. I mean, it's comfortable. It could have a little bit more stiff spring rate, maybe like a 6K, 8K, not a 6K, 4K, but it gets the job done good. So I'm almost to my Dunkin' because it is early in the morning and you guys know I love my coffee. So I'm going to end this video here because this is pissing me off with this noise and I don't have anything else to film for you guys for this video. So if you enjoyed it, throw that like button. If you're new to the channel, hopefully you consider subscribing. And if somebody got extra Speedo cable for a NA Miata, hit me up because this one makes me want to slit my throat. So do what you love, forget about the rest. I'm going to go get some coffee. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.